Imagine if you lost 20, 30, 40, or even 50 pounds or more right away. Would you be more attractive to the opposite sex? Feel better? Sleep better? If you've tried to lose weight in the past and repeatedly failed, then you need to know about a true game-changer medication. Semaglutide is FDA approved. It can produce quick and easy results. Call the number on your screen now for free info. This is the last diet you'll ever go on. Finally lose the weight and keep it off. There's no pain, no surgery, no exercise plan, no starvation, no fasting, no silly meal prep. In fact, you can continue to eat the foods you love. Pause this screen and take down this number or store it in your cell phone. But call today for free information. The Advanced Medical Weight Loss Program is physician-based and works with your body naturally to create the feeling of being full. This is not just about losing weight. This is about what your life can become as a thinner you. Call the number on your screen now for free info. Finally lose the weight and keep it off. Look great this summer, but hurry. There's a huge demand for this product and shortages may occur at any time. Call the number on your screen now for free information.
Welcome to the Turnpike Sports Spotlight. Dave Weishuttle with you. I'm a big fan of fantasy sports, and that's why I'm excited to talk to our next guest. She is part of something incredibly unique in fantasy sports. The name of the platform is called Fantasy Sports Evo, and it's a real money daily fantasy contest where you pick teams instead of players. It's an amazing idea, and we're going to find out all about it because on the line we have Fantasy Sports Evo's Vice President of Player Accounts, Tara Kovatch. Tara, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. But before we start talking about Fantasy Sports Evo, tell us something about your background. I mean, were you a fantasy sports player before you became involved in Fantasy Sports Evo? I mean, what led you to Fantasy Sports Evo?
No, well, I've been a sports fan all my life. Grew up playing soccer and basketball. Never really got into daily fantasy sports because I don't have the headspace for knowing all the players and their stats, right? I was never one of those kids, even though I watched and, played, I never was able to, memorize all the stats and stuff like that. So daily fantasy sports really intimidated me and I found it overwhelming. So in my previous life, I was a manager of a bar in Hoboken, a family bar. And we sold that about 6 years ago. So I retired to spend some time with my wife and daughter. And then about 3 years ago, we got some new neighbors, and I was talking to my neighbor, Mark, who's the founder and creator of Evo, and he was telling me about this idea that he had. And he knew I liked sports, and he knew that we'd go to the casino a couple times, so he knew I liked a little gambling. And he was telling me about this idea that he was working on. He's like, it's daily fantasy sports. And I was like, whoa, stop. I was like, I don't do that. And he's like, hold on, why don't you? And I told him I can't wrap my head around, this player stats and all that stuff, and it's too overwhelming for me. And he's like, okay, well, listen to my idea. And he proceeds to tell me about his idea of team-based daily fantasy. And I was like, wow, that is something that I would play. And so he was developing it pretty much on his own, working on it at night. So I said, I would love to be involved in it. And so that's how I came in, and I'm running the business side of it. And he's still, very much a part of it on the tech side.
Like I told you off air, I think Fantasy Sports Evo is an absolutely incredible idea. I mean, tell us about the evolution of this platform. How did this idea come into being? Was Mark playing fantasy sports one day and was like, oh my God, there's no way I can win this the way it's set up, the present incarnation of daily fantasy sports out there. How did this idea come into being?
Yeah. So I love this story. So Mark was a traditional fantasy sports player for a couple of years. And he set his lineup before he left work one day and was in the car in traffic. We're both from Jersey, so that Sure. Jersey traffic, And on the radio, he heard that one of his players was pulled from the lineup due to a stomach bug. And that's something that's not on your radar, so you wouldn't expect it, so you keep that player in the lineup. So that got pulled, that player got pulled, and by the time he got home, it was too late to change his lineup. So he was like, man, and of course that ruined his whole lineup for the night. So he was crushed. He was like, there's got to be a better way. And he started thinking, and then that's how he came up with this team-based concept.
It's yourself and Mark, but who else is involved with the company? I think it's one of the most creative fantasy sports sites out there. Tell me about the team that's involved with Fantasy Sports Evo.
Yeah, sure. So it's Mark, who's our founder and our head tech guy. I'm running the business side of it. My wife is the marketing side of it. Mm-hmm. And we've got, some other people that work for us with social media, and we have an affiliate marketing manager. And that's about it for now.
Mm-hmm. Before we get into the nitty-gritty about how you actually play on Fantasy Sports Evo platform, talk to me about the technology involved. Now, I've been on some fantasy sites, and they're slow, and some are really confusing to use. I mean, I always make a joke. I mean, some of them look like the mission control at NASA, and it's so hard to follow. I mean, but tell us about Fantasy Sports Evo, because it seems like it's easy to understand and easy to play.
Yeah, so that was one of our biggest goals, is to simplify the platform, because the team concept is simplifying daily fantasy sports, right? The traditional way. Sure. So we wanted to make sure that the site and the app are very easy to use for anyone, because this is a good entry point for anyone trying to get into the world of sports betting or daily fantasy sports, right? Yeah. So it's really easy. You just, you sign up, make a deposit, $10 minimum, and then you get taken to our lobby. And in our lobby, there's a great filter where you can pick your sport, or you can see all the games listed. You find a game you like, a contest that you like at the entry level that you want, and you hit enter, and then you pick your teams, hit submit, and that's it. So it's a really simplified way to play.
Now, we've been alluding to it. One of the things that separates Fantasy Sports Evo from other daily fantasy sports platforms is that you have contests where players pick teams instead of individuals. I know that's a foreign idea to a lot of people. What exactly does that mean, you're picking teams?
Yeah, so when you pick teams, I'll just give our NFL contest as an example, right? Because everyone's excited for the NFL season coming up next week. So in our NFL Classic contest, you enter that, and you would pick two teams for pass. You would select one team for passing, two teams for rushing, two teams for receiving, and one team for kicking, right? So you have to know what team's good at what category, right? So for rushing, for example, you pick two teams for rushing. It doesn't matter who runs the ball, right? And that's where it really sets us apart. And you don't need to know the players. You need to know a little bit about the sport and the teams, but you don't need to know who the players are. And if someone gets hurt and comes, and a different player comes in, it's okay. You still get those points. So the points accrue from the individual players on that team for that category that you picked that team for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. It really explains a lot. And, the one thing I've learned from playing on other daily fantasy sports platforms is that recreational players like myself, I really don't have a chance to win the big on there. Most of the daily fantasy sports players I've talked to and interviewed have these algorithms that churn out about 300 players and 300 versions of a team and the best possible players for a contest. When reading about Fantasy Sports Evo, it really seems like it's the best fantasy site for recreational players like myself who don't have algorithms, who don't have time to research individual players. Was that the goal in creating Fantasy Sports Evo, to create a site for players who haven't invested a lot of money in algorithms or don't have a lot of time in order to enjoy daily fantasy sports?
Absolutely. As I said, Mark was a traditional fantasy sports player, and that was one of his turnoffs too. Is you see all these big contests for these huge prizes, and you see the same players winning every week, right? Yeah. So one of his, the big thing about Evo is there's a guaranteed winner for every contest. Meaning you're not playing against the house or odds that you have to beat, right? Yeah. And then you just have to get more points than the other players. And so right now we have smaller 3 or 5 player contests. But even when we get bigger, everyone still has a chance to win because we have limited entries. So at most, even when we get to really big size contests, you're going to have 3 entries max.
Wow. Okay.
So you won't be playing against those algorithms or those sharks with huge bankrolls that can just, enter, 100 entries, right? Yeah. So it really levels the playing field for all sports fans.
everyone talks about whether it's sports betting or fantasy sports fan engagement. And what better way to engage your players is, hey, you know what? You got a fighting chance to win this. And, it's not stat based that much. I mean, you're going to need to know some stats, but not like the daily fantasy sports that are out there already. That's absolutely incredible. Who are you marketing this to? Certainly, when you play daily fantasy sports Evo, it doesn't mean you don't have to play the other daily fantasy sports site. It just seems like such a great companion piece,
Yeah. So we're marketing this to everyone, right? Because it is a nice add-on or in addition to traditional fantasy sites. So those diehard players like our concept because it's different, right? So it's something new for them to play, and their experience on the traditional will help them out, right? But we're also, because of our simplified platform, we're here for everyone. Anyone that likes sports and likes a chance to win money, Evo is for everyone, right? Sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
Are you picking your teams right now? That's what's happening now?
So we're appealing to those fans like myself who feel traditional fantasy is too overwhelming, too time consuming, too intimidating, whatever the reason is. And also, as this big surge of women's sports is coming out, right? Like everyone's talking about it, everybody's watching it, but not necessarily everyone's betting on women's sports, right?
Sure.
With Evo, it's a really easy entryway to bet on women's sports because a lot of people know here, we're excited that we were able to add the WNBA to our platform this year. Some people may watch it. Some people may know a few names. You probably know like 1, maybe 2, 3 at max players on the WNBA teams, right? So it's really hard to do the traditional fantasy sports with the WNBA because you don't know enough about the players.
Sure.
But with Evo, you can join our WNBA three-pointer contest, and you're going to pick the Fever because of Caitlin Clark, right? Or the Minnesota Lynx, or if you're playing our WNBA Classic, you're going to pick Chicago Sky because Angel Reese is a beast on the boards, right?
Yeah.
So it's a great way to start betting and then start watching because when you put money on a game, you're going to watch that game to see how you do, right?
Yeah.
So it's a great way to get more people engaged into the women's sports also.
I loved the evolution story of Fantasy Sports Evo because I think anyone who's played fantasy sports have gone through that. And, the thing I've experienced playing daily fantasy sports is the fact that my whole day can be ruined when I hear a player that I picked is not playing because of injury or for whatever reason. I mean, it usually means my whole lineup is basically just blown up. Is that something we don't have to worry about when you're playing on Fantasy Sports Evo, correct? Would an injury of a player or a player being benched affect the person who plays on Fantasy Sports Evo?
It really doesn't. It will a little bit because, like if you had Aaron Rodgers and you picked the Jets, right, last season, right? We all know what happened there, right? So, there's a substitution. You're just not going to get as many points probably, but you never know, right? So one injury won't ruin your lineup, but it could affect it just a little bit. But so it doesn't matter who plays, who catches the ball, who runs the ball, who shoots the basket, whatever. It's whatever team that you pick. So one injury won't ruin your lineup. One substitution, one bench. The stomach bug. It won't kill you. It could hurt you a little bit, but it's not gonna. You're not going to get 0 points for it.
Now, you're a Jets fan, and I know when you just made that reference, the executive producer here just shook his head. So you're giving him flashbacks. So we'll quickly move off the Jets because the executive producer is having a fit here. But walk us through what we can expect when we start playing Fantasy Sports Evo. I mean, when I get the app, I log on. What kind of contests will I start seeing, and how can I start picking teams?
Yeah, so when you download the app, it's available in both stores or our mobile-friendly website. We don't have NFL in right now, but we'll have NFL next week.
Okay.
We've got the WNBA and MLB right now. We'll have the NBA and NHL when those seasons start. So you go into the lobby, you can see your contests. You can use our filter if you prefer to filter for sport, for contest types. We have several different types of contests for every sport. We have the traditional classic where you just, pick NFL is classic. You get passing, rushing, receiving. So once you enter the contest, that's where you pick your teams per category and just hit submit, and then you kick back and enjoy watching the games.
Now, where can people play on Fantasy Sports Evo? What states are you available in?
Good question. So we are licensed. We're a licensed operator in the state of New Jersey.
Good.
And then we're available in 28 states, Canada, excluding Ontario.
I'm very curious because as a gaming attorney, I know you have to go in front of the state regulators and get licensed. Was it difficult because you have such a unique platform? It's so different from every other daily fantasy sports platform out there. Did it take more explaining on your part to get them to understand what Fantasy Sports Evo is to get a license?
Yes. That did take a lot of explaining because we had to prove to them that we are fantasy sports, right? Mm-hmm. So Mark did a great job. He's got a great relationship with the New Jersey Attorney General, and they understand it. They like it. They give us the license, so we're good to go. But yeah, it's a lot of work to get a license. We're hoping to get licensed in more states, but right now we're going to see how it goes. We're licensed in New Jersey.
So right now, what sports are you offering, and do you have plans on adding any more sports as time goes by?
Yeah, so we offer the NFL, NBA, WNBA, MLB, and NHL right now. We're looking to add possibly soccer for next season. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I'm not sure because we are going to stick to our team-based concept. So I know a lot of people ask us, well, when are you going to add golf? And it's like, well, that's really an individual sport.
Yeah.
So we're and tennis was a big question too. But we're going to stick to the team-based concept. And I think soccer, we've got some contest types for soccer that I'm really excited about.
What has been the response for Fantasy Sports Evo? It's such an incredible idea. I mean, you actually, as a player, have a fighting chance to win a contest. What has been the initial reaction from people who played on Fantasy Sports Evo so far?
So far, we've gotten great feedback. Mm-hmm. Everyone loves it. We have a nice mix of women and men playing as users. One of our users who, found us, and he plays a lot of the traditional fantasy sports. And, we offer a refer a friend program. And I was like, hey, would you like a promo code to share this with your friends? He's like, no, because I like the, being able to win with this one. So he doesn't want too many people to know about it.
Yeah, right.
But so it's been great. We've got a lot of great feedback. Everyone loves the ease of the platform. It is super fast, like you mentioned. And, you get, right now our contests are smaller on size. So like 3 to 5 player, you get a couple of your friends and one of you is going to win. Right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's a lot of fun.
So in the news, we see a lot of professional sports teams or leagues making deals with fantasy sports platforms or sports betting platforms. Does Fantasy any plans to pursue deals with sports teams or leagues? It just makes perfect sense. I mean, you're actually picking teams instead of actual individual players.
We would love that. We actually had a conversation with the WNBA before the season started, and they offered us a licensing deal. But, with everything in this world, it takes money, right?
Sure.
So we decided to hold off on that and put the money towards, marketing. But yeah, we would love to partner with a team, a league, anything. And even just, we're looking for partners to help us promote our site and get our name out there. Because when people give us money to play on our site, they want a little credibility. So we're just looking for ways to get our name out there. And, it was surprising to me when I started this that everything, every story that you read out there, you have to pay for that. Even our local paper, I was like, it's a great story about 2 New Jersey residents that live next door to each other, that getting this out there. Mm-hmm. So we're looking for anyone that wants to partner with us to help us get our name out there, whether it's a blogger, an influencer, somebody that has a podcast like you guys, so we appreciate any opportunity to get our name out there.
Now I know a lot of sports betting operators who have been interested in daily fantasy sports platforms. I mean, they seem to go hand in hand. Could that be a possible future for Fantasy Sports Evo, becoming involved with a sports betting operator? Because I know they do deals a lot.
Yeah, we're open to making a deal with anyone. We'd love to sit down and have a chat with anyone that's interested in partnering with us. Absolutely.
So tell people how they can start playing Fantasy Sports Evo. Where would they go to download the app, and are there any age restrictions for playing on the platform?
Yes, absolutely. So we are available in both the Apple and Google Play Store. Our website, fantasysportsevo.com, is mobile friendly, so you don't have to download the app if that's not your thing. Just log on to the website or download the app, create an account, deposit, like I said, $10 minimum. We're doing a 100% deposit match right now. And if anyone wants to use the promo code Turnpike, we'll match your deposit up to $100, and then we will also give you another extra $10 in playable credits.
You can't go wrong. Look at that. Use Turnpike, there you go.
Promo code Turnpike. And then, so yes, there is age restrictions. It is considered gambling, so it's 18 and up, 21 in Massachusetts. Like I said, we're only available in 28 states. Our app and our website will tell you if you're located in a state where you're not eligible to play.
So in terms of growth for Fantasy Sports Evo, what are your plans for the future? Where do you hope to see Fantasy Sports Evo in a year from now?
I hope to see it everywhere.
I like the ambition. There you go.
Yeah, this is our second NFL season. So we're really excited about that, and we're really excited to see the growth from that. I would love to see us partnering with a WNBA team or the league. Hello, Kathy. And I would just love to see our name out there more often, in whether it's, publications or just partnering with a league, a sports book, whatever it is. I foresee this growing. It's a slow start. Last year was our first one, but I see it growing exponentially in the next year.
Tara, we're running out of time, but can you give out a website where people can check out Fantasy Sports Evo and where they can download the app? And also, if you have any social media addresses you want to give out so people can keep up with what you're doing with Fantasy Sports Evo?
Yeah. So it's fantasysportsevo.com.
Okay.
Also available in the app stores, Fantasy Sports Evo. We've got Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you call it, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. Just search Fantasy Sports Evo, EVO, and you'll find us. And follow us. And if anyone is looking to partner or looking for more information, I can be reached at Tara at fantasysportsevo.com, or you can hit us up on socials.
Tara Kovatch, Vice President of Player Accounts for Fantasy Sports Evo, thanks so much for coming on and telling us about your incredible fantasy sports platform. Fantasy Sports Evo is one of the most unique platforms out there, and I can't wait to give it a try. Thanks for coming on and telling us all about it.
Thanks for having me. It was great to meet you guys. Thank you.
That'll do it for us this week. We'll see you next time on the Turnpike.